I worked for Absa Bank in South Africa. Absa Bank is actually it's redundant because Absa used to stand for Amalgamated Banks of South Africa. So like Absa Bank is like Amalgamated Banks of South Africa Bank, but I don't think it stands for that anymore. In the same way, at some point, Randse Afrikaanse Universiteit, that was RAU. Before it transitioned to the University of Johannesburg, it was just known as RAU, and it didn't mean anything. Going on a tangent. I used to work at Absa Bank at head office, and I used to work, and then after that, I worked and I was headhunted at Standard Bank head office, both in Johannesburg. I have read up extensively on banking. I have studied the other banks, First National Bank, Capitec Bank, little bit of studies into the newer banks, Time Bank, deep study in African Bank because it was the biggest credit provider in the country at some point. SA Home Loans, even though it's not a bank. Um, Capitec Bank, I think, has got a business bank division now. I don't know if they took on Mercantile Bank or which bank they took on. There was Bank of Athens, which partnered with may have been Pick and Pay at some point. I've studied the South African Reserve Bank, the Banks Act. I wanted to start my own bank, a cashless bank, futuristic bank where people transact for free. And in exchange for the free transaction, you have to look at an ad. That was going to be my bank. And look, if it hasn't been done, this is business idea for you. Transactions, almost like sending a WhatsApp message, and you either pay for the transaction or you have to watch an ad, which is kind of what YouTube Premium kind of does now. This was many years ago, before my YouTube Premiums and the like. Studied the banks of the world. I've studied the history of banking, thanks to an amazing book by Neil Ferguson, The Ascent of Money. I've watched the documentaries, read up on the Rothschilds, I've read up on the Medici, Central Bank of London, the banks in Switzerland, etc. Anyways, I worked at Absa and I worked at Standard Bank, and I've studied a lot of our local banks. Nedbank, for people who catch feelings, Nedbank is also another big bank in the country. The banks do not care about you. How can I forget the vendor banking society, Vendor Mutual Bank, VBS, Itala Bank, Perm Bank, which is Ubank now. Anyways, there's a lot of banks in this country. It's just obviously we have a few that run this big cartel. I worked in banking, and I can tell you now, the banks don't care about you. The banks don't care about you. Having worked in the bank as an individual, all I care about is meeting my job description and the targets that are set by not my manager, not our team head, not even the executives, all the way by the CEO and the board of directors for what they need to do, number one, for the shareholders, and then at an executive level, because these guys want to earn bonuses. And banks are not about trying to make the most amount of profit, because it has to be sustainable. The guys that are executive level are going to try and make the most amount of profit in the year that they plan to quit, because they want to get the highest bonus they can get before they leave. I mean, normally they end up stripping the bank of a lot of value in that process. But the bank's focus is shareholders. The bank's focus is the board of directors. The bank's focus is the executive board, with the chief executive officer, the chief financial officer, and all the other executive heads. And for an employee, like I said, it's just to focus on your job spec. Make sure that you get paid a great salary. Guys in this country get paid a lot of money. And a lot of banking employees don't know where their money comes from. They just think, but I work for the bank. It comes from the exorbitant bank charges that are charged to ordinary South Africans. It comes from the high credit fees that are charged on many people. Sometimes, many times, reckless lending, in contravention of the National Credit Act. But no one fucking cares about that, And unless you understand some of these things, you'll never go to the National Credit Regulator and the Ombudsman. I remember that we used to have benchmarks when we come up with new products, that we have to at least make a certain amount, because we have to pay ourselves, pay for the rent, pay for the marketing, pay for the tech. Then we might look into the shareholders and how much value they're going to get. But at no point did we ever consider the customer. You might obviously hear a lot of marketing, customer first, how can we help you, innovation, free account. None of that stuff's got to do with the customer. It's got everything to do with making money for the bank. Outside of a salary, of course, we want to earn bonuses. So we want to fleece consumers as much as possible. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because there's actually a win-win scenario that our politicians don't seem to understand, our business people don't seem to understand, and sadly, the heartbeat of the economy, the banks don't seem to understand. If you can capacitate the people to understand how banking works and to learn how to fully exploit the banks, that'll be good for the South African economy. In America, they've got bankruptcy laws such that if you're not doing well, you can go and file for bankruptcy. You find billionaires, multimillionaires, millionaires filing for bankruptcy because there's a certain way that the American economy is run where they kind of want entrepreneurs and innovative people to keep failing, lose money, but then very quickly to get back on their feet so they can try again. Because that's what's built America into the superpower it is today. The J.D. Rockefellers, the Henry Fords, the Elon Musks today, the Bill Gates, the Jeff Bezos, all other billionaires that they've had there have been a function of this system where people get bankrupt, the debts get written off, and they try it again. In South Africa, a lot of you don't know that your bad credit record has to be wiped by the credit bureaus after 5 years. It shouldn't be there. That means after 5 years, even if your house was repossessed, your cars were repossessed, your business went belly up and you owed creditors, after 5 years, your slate is meant to be wiped clean. And you're meant to start the game again because they need you to start this monopoly game again. Otherwise, there's no money being made. If you failed in business, in your credit, and they never allowed you to play again, you'd never have money. And they would not be able to fleece you again. And you best believe the banks have fleeced you enough. The financial services industry has fleeced you enough to allow you that 5-year cooling off period where you come to Omashonis and other loan sharks to get loans because you can't get them from these reputable institutions. The more people become financially literate, the more they can understand how to play the game, the more they can get closer to their banks and understand, I'd like a better rate, I'd like to get close to prime, because if I do, that means I can get more products from you and I can make more money for the bank. But I can also hopefully take some of this credit that you're giving me and use it to buy an Uber that can make me money, to buy a property that's a rental property that will make me money, to be able to invest in some type of tools, equipment, businesses that will manufacture, farm, create things for export so I can bring money in. The rich understand this, the powerful understand this, the ordinary citizen doesn't. And they instead get hammered. And sadly, look, a lot of our banks, Standard Bank, China, Absa at some point was Barclays, which is the UK, Nedbank may have been the UK as well. There's a lot of foreign investors in our banks. If you're ever really bored and you're a loser and a nerd like me, please go online and download the financial statements, and the shareholders' reports of all the major banks and look at who the biggest shareholders are because they give that. They also give the geographies of the biggest shareholders. And you'll be surprised at how many foreign individuals and companies own our banks. So we're making money for them instead of banks that are meant to be serving the South African people. If we can empower people, and this is something that I wish I could make more time for, except it obviously comes at expertise and knowledge and time invested for me. And I do want to charge and I do want to make money. It's part of the game. I think I give enough free information and knowledge on my platforms. And maybe I may make time to do consults, whether for individuals or for groups, where we speak about how can you exploit the bank so that the bank becomes your friend, so that bankers, normally ignorant people with their own money problems, can open a wide bouquet and array of services for you. And you can find out about overdrafts, credit cards, find out how to use your credit card so that you can actually make more money than normal investment accounts. Which investment accounts are best? Money market, fixed deposit, etc. Which avenues are available for elite clients? Is there a benefit in being a private, having a private banker? Are you even exploiting your private banking suite? Do you know what's out there? I remember there was a database for properties that were being repossessed. I don't know if it's myroof.co.za. I'm not sure if it's still there, but something to consider. Can you exploit those things and even get the properties before they get even listed there? I urge you guys, and this is not me breaching confidentiality or, letting secrets out the bag. These are things that are out there if you just scroll the internet and learn and read the Banking Act and find out and get friends in banking and find out how you can exploit the banks so that you can make more money for the banks, more money for you, and build a stronger economy for South Africa. Pen you all the black pen. Cheers.